holy cow, did Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore run game put it on the Buffalo Bills. They put it on the Buffalo Bills. And so, Steve, I'm going to step out on a limb and say I would rather be the 2-2 Baltimore Ravens than the 4-0 Kansas City Chiefs. The Baltimore Ravens have an identity. I know exactly what they're going to run it down your throat, and they're going to play sound defense on the other side, and Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are going to milk that clock, and Lamar's going to make some timely passes. I like the 2-2 Baltimore Ravens and the way they're playing more than I do my own Kansas City Chiefs 4-0 and the way they're playing. Do you agree?
Couldn't agree more. If you look at Baltimore, they're about, 5 plays away from being 4-0. And the level that they're playing at, there's nothing fluky about it. Jason, they're the most physical team in the league by far. And they have a clear identity. And I'm going to say this once again. They have tailored their offense a little bit, not completely, for the 22-wheeler. They're not going full-blown 1985 I formation, but they're going under center and in what I call the half-pregnant, the pistol formation. Not full shotgun, you're not under center, but you're right at that point where you're allowing Derrick Henry to run the ball downhill. And Jason, the more I see Kansas City, I got to give them credit. They win games, and they're undefeated. I get it, but we're not out of September yet. But the term that comes to my mind, I don't know if you agree or disagree, fool's gold. And now Rashee Rice may be gone for the year.
Fool's gold is strong, but not playing well. And Mahomes, 6 TDs, 5 interceptions. Travis Kelce's kind of disappeared. A tragedy yesterday with Carson still fumbling the ball again. I hope they don't give up on him, but he's had 2 fumbles in 3 games. But Steve, let's look at the next 4 games for both teams. The Ravens are at Cincinnati. The Ravens then host a very hot Washington team at Tampa Bay, playing very well, and then Cleveland. It's just, I honestly think Deshaun Watson wants to retire from football. He's just had it. Seriously, I just think his reputation's been so smeared. It's like, I got to go out here and play for the money, but anyway, they get Cleveland, which is basically a bye. Then the Chiefs, they host New Orleans. Then they have their bye week. Then at San Francisco, and then at a feisty, interesting Las Vegas team that seems to be playing really hard under Antonio Pierce. What do you make of these next 4 weeks for both teams? Baltimore, to me, probably has the rougher schedule. Chiefs only play 3 games. Baltimore plays 4. What do you think we'll be thinking another 4 games from now?
That Lamar Jackson is headed towards another MVP. I'll say it right now. I actually like what they're doing offensively. And Jason, yesterday, I thought he played one of the most impressive games I've seen. It had nothing to do with the stats, but he was actually getting underneath center. They were running some play action. He was decisive in the pocket, back foot dropped, and he's ripping the ball, throwing like really, really accurate midfield intermediate passes. I'm like, wow, this looks pretty good. And what they can do with that bootleg and waggle game with Derrick Henry. And Jason, this is going to be a familiar theme. I'm going to go back to him. I'm going to belabor the point. Many of these teams in the National Football League are not equipped to be punched in the mouth defensively. Bill Belichick brought it up, and it's easily noticeable. They cannot run fit. They have smaller linebackers. There's a lot of nickel and dime type of defensive sets. So when a team makes a commitment to bring in a tight end or any type of fullback, and they get that 260-pound guy hammering you inside, they are running away from contact. And all of that will eventually benefit Lamar Jackson. I'm just telling you, nobody wants to face the Ravens here and now moving forward.
Everything you're saying, I think, really applies to Derrick Henry and not taking anything away from Lamar, but Derrick Henry's driving that offense. And if Derrick Henry ends up with anything close to 2,000 yards or 1,800 yards, I think that may end up, he might be the MVP. But we'll get to that here in a moment. Steve, I want to stay on Derrick Henry because he starts the game with an 87-yard touchdown run. And my immediate thoughts like, okay, my instincts weren't right. Tennessee, horrible decision moving on from Derrick Henry. He's still a force to be reckoned with. And now, as I just get further and further down the road with Derrick Henry, is no one talks about him like an all-time great running back. But I do think he's got a chance to crack the top 10 in running backs in NFL history. I'll just give you my top 10 and just tell me if you see him cracking this list. Jim Brown, Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, Eric Dickerson, Earl Campbell, O.J. Simpson, Marshall Faulk, Emmitt Smith, LaDainian Tomlinson, and Adrian Peterson, with an honorable mention of Marcus Allen, Jerome Bettis, Curtis Martin, John Riggins. Do you see Derrick Henry headed towards that top 10?
Okay, so you had Earl Campbell in there, correct?
Yes. That's not even questionable.
Here's the thing, though. At Earl Campbell's peak, he was the greatest wrecking ball in National Football League history. But when you look at the longevity and also the high peak of Henry, think about Earl Campbell. His rookie year, he was spectacular. And then 78 or 79, 80, 81, 82, 83. He really had 5 great years. And then by 1985, his body was worn down. In fact, he ended his career with Bum Phillips as a New Orleans Saint, and he retired after being chased down on a run where he fumbled the ball out of the end zone. So, look, Earl Campbell is spectacular. Derrick Henry is probably going to do this for over a decade with that running style. The other guy where I think he has a chance to overtake him because he's a more physical back and he doesn't fumble as much. I think ball security is an issue with running backs. As spectacular and great as Adrian Peterson was, I thought he laid the ball on the ground a lot for an elite running back. And if you look at some of the things that Henry has done in terms of number of 200-yard games, I think he's number 1 all time, maybe with 6. I read that. Those are the 2 guys where I'd say, look, if he's going to crack this top 10 of Jason Whitlock, and again, taking nothing away from those 2 guys, those would be my first 2 candidates.
Steve, how many Pro Bowls do you think Earl Campbell played in?
Probably at least 5. 5 or 6, right?
How many Pro Bowls do you think Derrick Henry has played in?
Let me guess, 4 or 5.
4. Earl Campbell's played in 5. Anytime you make 5 Pro Bowls, I don't think longevity. Most running backs have 5 great seasons. He had 5 great seasons where, again, just more than just a human wrecking ball, a one-man offense. A one-man offense. The slights at Earl Campbell, I don't like, because I honestly.
Jason, I'm not slighting him. I'm making an argument because these are elite players. But when I saw Derrick Henry bust that 87-yard run on the first play, I said to myself, how many men his size can run like that and just absolutely pull away from National Football League defensive backs? And look, I know that's not Earl Campbell's game, and Earl Campbell broke some long runs early in his career. I don't know if Earl Campbell could ever gallop quite like that, Jason.
I agree. O.J. Simpson played in 6 Pro Bowls, including 1 in the AFL. Earl Campbell, twice MVP runner-up, once MVP. That's a hard resume to beat at the running back position. And I bet you Adrian Peterson might be, Jim Brown obviously was MVP a few times.
Yeah.
Was Adrian Peterson MVP just once? Yeah,
he had
once,
a 2,000-yard year. I do remember that.
Yeah. In his 2,000-yard season, he was MVP. Anyway, Derrick Henry, Butter, you're a Tennessee Titans fan. Top 10 running back all time.
I don't know yet. I could hear Mike Keith, though, last night making the call, but it was for the Ravens. Derrick Henry to the house. We saw that a lot here in Tennessee.
You question whether you're a Tennessee person? You questioning King Henry as an all-time great running back?
I mean, you're asking me. I'm telling you what I'm thinking. I don't know at this point.
Do you have any homer in you at all? This is the man that put Tennessee on the map.
It's one of the most exciting things to watch a guy that big get through the line and go to the house, but I don't know if he's top 10 yet.
Holy
Jason,
cow.
First of all, what you just said is very disrespectful to Steve McNair and Eddie George. Okay, they put Tennessee Titans football on the map. And one more feather in the cap for the 22-wheeler. He did this with much of his career without a Pro Bowl quarterback. He made Ryan Tannehill actually look very serviceable. And when Tannehill was at his most effective, it was because he had the luxury of handing the ball off to the big fella. So it's not like Derrick Henry has played on a lot of offensive powerhouses himself.
Don't miss a second of Fearless. Hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with our latest content.